I cannot believe how bad this game plan was, and it makes me genuinely concerned for the future.
All right, Chelsea fans, welcome back to another episode. That's right, of the London is Blue podcast. Hopefully, your favorite place to come after a very disappointing loss against Liverpool at Anfield on the Klopp Farewell Tour 2024. No Brandon here because he had the foresight to skip this episode. So Dan, along with Nick, walking you through some feels and some thoughts about Chelsea's disaster class in the Premier League this past Wednesday. Nick, just the rapid reaction right off the top rope into the mat. How you feeling?
Yeah, I put this on Twitter. I'm disappointed in myself that I didn't see this coming. And this is why I will not let you or Ollie try and hype me up to be positive the rest of the season, Dan. I think you guys started to get me going. There was a couple wins there on the bounce. We started to feel a little better about ourselves, and I bought in a little bit to the maybe we could do this today. And the team came out and said, we will absolutely not be doing this today. Thank you very much. And we're going to take a really somber ride home to London. So just as a note, Dan, no more hype for me. I'm out on hype. I'm going to be straight down the middle the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's almost like we sold you crypto rather than federally backed securities.
You sold me Potchcoin. That's what you did, and it lost some value today. I'm not going to lie.
Is that available in the Big X marketplace?
Frankly, I think after today, it's maybe stop trading.
There's a halt to trading.
Yeah.
Which is worth more, a Bored Ape or Potchcoin? Let us know in the comments. But anyway,
I don't know.
In this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about Chelsea's failings in this match, really from the get-go, particularly around the attack, how some of the players just weren't ready for prime time, get a little bit deeper into some of the defensive frailty we saw in some new combinations, and talk a little big picture, thinking about how this maybe impacts the Carabao Cup fixture in just around a month's time. But before we do that, Nick, we give the people a little bit of recognition when it comes to the three-word match review. I handpicked a couple here for you. Why don't you share a little love to these listeners who at least got the tone right, I think.
Yeah, the tone is good. Brad comes in with should have started Argyle. That is a note on Argyle being on the lineup card to start this game, of course, being released this weekend. So there you go.
Do you know the Rotten Tomatoes score for Argyle by chance?
I don't, Dan. What is it?
It's not good. It is being universally panned. It has a 38% on Rotten Tomatoes, and that's not even the site I go to typically. 38 on Rotten Tomatoes is bad. That is bad. It's
almost like it was that kind of performance on the pitch as well. It's an interesting parallel. Jay up the Chelsea with robbed by kleptocracy. That's a deep cut for those who pay attention to world politics. Well done. Ringo Sound with, of course, the classic Drogba Champions League. It's a forward match review, but a bleeping disgrace. You know that one by heart. You can paint it in your own mind. Rowdy with men versus boys. Connor with worried for Wembley. Hard not to be. Bill with VAR victory assurance in parens for Reds, which I like. And then Sakeshi with hello darkness again / my old friend. We're back, baby. Darkness, we're in. We're fully in on darkness. I love it.
Look, I'm surprised we didn't see some darkest timeline question mark ones in there. That is a return to what feels like a very long time ago at this point. I don't love it. What did you have, Nick?
LiVARPool / Lions.
Yeah, I think that's very accurate.
Went back to a little bit of alliteration for a downtrodden moment. Why not?
I went with RPM, which is a new acronym I made for Raheem Sterling, Cole Palmer, and Madueke. Zero proof. Because as we'll talk about later, 0 shots from all those guys. Boy, oh boy, if you were looking for a dry January, that was it. not good.
On the
Anyway,
last day of January, no less, you know?
yeah.
Come
Very
on.
dry, Sahara Desert vibes. Look, we want to just do a quick bit of admin. We want to thank everybody in our amazing community for supporting the podcast. Those who leave 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, we super appreciate. It helps people find the show. Those who are following us on YouTube and subscribe to the channel, we super appreciate it. Just throughout the clips, the 30,000 subscriber benchmark that we've been after. So thank you, everybody who helps us get that. You can like and comment on the videos too. We appreciate that as well. Sign up for our free weekly newsletter. This one will probably be more somber than other ones, but hey, I'm writing next week, so maybe that will be a really good one. There'll be some special stuff in there that we get to talk about and share. And you can join the conversation for a free or paid variant of our Discord community. Links to all of those things in the show notes and the descriptions, but we're going to get into the match details here, Nick, with one stop beforehand.
If I can, you're going to be listening to this on Thursday, February 1st. Okay. That's a big day for us. We have a special announcement coming out. We can't quite
It's no longer
yet.
dry January, and people can enjoy beverages again.
That's right. And we're going to be drinking early on February 1st. I think that's everyone's goal. No, we have a special announcement going out on social on February 1st. And we want to make sure that you head over to our socials to get the details. It is the thing that we have been kind of hinting at and teasing along for a little bit now, and we are super excited to announce it, and then we can stop doing that to you and all that sort of stuff. But if you're listening to this around 9 o'clock Eastern and after, we're going to have a whole bunch of content up. Appreciate your support and love.
Well, that is a wonderful message and some silver lining, not for Chelsea, but for those in the Chelsea community and the show. But anyway, we're going to talk about this match, unfortunately, the loss to Liverpool this past Wednesday, January 31st in the Premier League at Anfield. Liverpool winning 4-1. Diego Jota got the scoring going in the 23rd minute with Bradley, who had himself quite a day, getting a first assist. Connor Bradley comes back again the 39th minute with a Luis Diaz assist to score again. Dominic Szoboszlai gets a goal in the 65th minute with another Bradley assist, the second of his two. 3-goal contributions in the game for the young lad. Pretty impressive. 71st minute, Christopher Nkunku gets a goal with Carney Chukwuemeka assisting him, and then just to round it off, because 3 goals wasn't enough to defeat Chelsea. So they thought, Luis Diaz says, nah, dog, I got one of me too. And Darwin Núñez, who hit the post and crossbar 4 times in this match, was able then to assist one Luis Diaz for that last goal. Nick, we should run the people through the lineup so they can relive the joy or horror of what Pochettino put out.
Yeah, not a whole lot of joy here, Dan. Thanks for asking. Petrovic, between the sticks, easily our best player on the day. Chilwell, Badiashile, Silva, and Disasi making up the back line. Awful across the board. Enzo, Moises Caicedo, and Connor in midfield. Raheem Sterling, Noni Madueke getting a second straight start, and Cole Palmer up top. So went with kind of the false 9 or interchangeable trio, whatever the hell you want to call it. Bench minutes for Malo Gusto finally coming back. That was great to see after he's been absent for 3 matches. Mykhailo Mudryk, Christopher Nkunku getting his goal, which is great. Good to see him again. So those were 3 halftime subs. That's how well the first half went for us. Carney Chukwuemeka in the 66th minute. Cesare Casadei in the 85th minute. Got himself a number and everything today. How about that? Lucas Bergstrom, Alfie Gilchrist, David Washington, and Armando Broya on the bench. And yeah, that was it. Outside of Petrovic and I guess Nkunku, pretty bad displays for everyone across the board today.
Well, that bears out in the stats and not just the scoreline. Liverpool 2.93 expected goals to Chelsea's paltry 0.56. They had 51% of possession of the ball. We had 49. They had 28 shots, 13 on target. We had 4 total shots in the match. That's right, 4. Only 3 on target, 1 off target to their 6. They had 9 block shots, so at least we were doing something, but not a whole lot. They had 8 corner kicks to our 1, 3 offsides apiece, 15 fouls for them, 16 for us, 4 yellow cards for us, of course, to their 2, 15 free kicks apiece. We then had one big chance, which we then missed, to the 4 big chances and 2 missed from the Liverpool side. They hit the woodwork 4 times, all by the same player. And yeah, goalkeeper saves. They had 2. Didn't force a lot of action out of Alisson. We had 9. One random stat being 28 and 13. Liverpool's 28 shots tonight is the joint most on record since 2003-04 any side has had in the Premier League against Chelsea, with 13 shots on target, their most the Blues have faced in a league match in that time. Peppered. Absolutely peppered with that. The random stats, all the stats, the scoreline. I don't think there was an MPEG shithouse moment of the match other than potentially taking PTO time off of work to watch the match.
Nope. No, not when you give up 28 shots and 13 on target. There's not a whole lot of shithouse happening there.
Well, let's get into some more specifics, but we'll do that right after this break, so stay tuned. All right, so I think the best place to start as we get into how this went very, very wrong, I think maybe just the mood and attitude around Pochettino before we talk about like what didn't work with his plan on the pitch. I think there were a lot of comments, even about Liverpool deserving to win, that didn't seem to sit right with supporters after the match, Nick, and maybe just a vibe check. I feel like the vibe is not good. Definitely not good.
No. I mean, we've talked all year about there being, a couple steps forward, a couple steps back, the progress not being linear, all that sort of stuff. And I think all of that still is true. But man, this is one of our biggest rivals. We have gone head to head as many times in the last 12, 13 years as any teams have in the league and in cup competitions. And it's always been close. Like there are not blowouts in this rivalry either way, typically. It's always been close. It's always been gritty. And Poch completely fucked it today. I mean, it was bad. The team was set up poorly. The selections were poor. The energy was completely missing from the team. The tactical game plan was as naive and silly as we've seen all year. And it's frustrating and alarming because it's more than halfway through the season now. We played better against them the first week of the season by a mile than we did today. Most people thought we deserved to win that game. That seems like fucking 3 years ago. And I think, Dan, where I'm going to start off with is the game plan. Heading into this game, there is going to be a ton of emotion, a ton of hype, a ton of Klopp love. The whole new cop stand is going to be filled with all sorts of noise. You know what you're walking into. And yet, they went out there like chickens with their heads cut off, trying to out-Liverpool at home. Why? I would argue some of the most gratifying Chelsea performances in the last decade against Liverpool have been the punch, counter-punch sorts of games. But we went out there trying to beat them 4-1 today, except we don't have anywhere near the clinicality or skill in the final third to do so. So instead of going with a disciplined, well-organized defensive play where they end up making mistakes, because we've seen them make mistakes this year and cost themselves goals because they let something slip on a counter or Van Dijk makes an error or something like that, we went out and gave them everything. We gave them the run of the pitch. We gave them the whole ass midfield. We gave them the wings. What else could we have given them? I don't know, but we were a charitable organization, apparently. I cannot believe how bad this game plan was, and it makes me genuinely concerned for the future.
Yeah, if you're talking about a multi-billion-dollar tax write-off, you could make a case at this point with how much Chelsea gave away and ceded to Liverpool on the pitch in the match on the day. I think some of the things that come to mind for me first and foremost are just taking a look at the attack. Yeah, I know I made the zero-proof joke earlier, but Chelsea went through a game without having any of the three main attackers who started the game registering really any attacking contribution. Now, I know Raheem got into the box once. Cole did not occupy the box. Madueke got in a little, but for the most part, there was no connection between our defense to the midfield to attack, or even some of the kind of the general patterns that we see, like a center back, getting the ball to a fullback or to a midfielder, and the midfielder playing it out to the center back who can then hit it forward to the winger. That even the simple patterns weren't coming off. And what we talked about in the preview pod is that this needed to be a game of absorbing and actually taking back possession, because Liverpool want to have the ball. They want to come at you. They can press and counterpress so quickly that like you have to just basically take away their time on the ball. It's actually very similar, I actually think, to like the fourth quarter in an NFL game. Like, you want to go and not give the other team time on the ball. So you want to be slow and methodical, or as intentional as you can be. And there was no intention in the way that we were building up. When you look at the Chilwell runs and interchanges on the left with Sterling, the combination play wasn't going off there. And so you end up with some heat maps that basically take the goal area for Sterling, Madueke, and Palmer, and outside of a little yellow on Madueke's on the very far right-hand corner, top corner, and then one little bit of yellow and Raheem Sterling's on the far left, there was no other penetration into the box from those, from our attacking players. And like that alone, if you can't set us up to score, if you can't set us up to shoot, like, we're not going to have a good day.
Well, also, there was room in behind all day. No, like the runs were terrible all day. Some of the things that Chelsea have been doing better recently, making those off the ball runs and diagonal passes, trying to open up space. You don't have to pass through Liverpool 90 times to get the ball upfield. They don't. They got the ball out to the wings all day because there was plenty of room. There's plenty of room for Chelsea on the wings all day. No one thought to make that pass. No one thought to open up space by playing crossfield balls or over the top balls. I mean, if Raheem Sterling could play a pass first time, and Nkunku was in on goal from the halfway line, that's how high up Liverpool were in the second half. And yet nothing. I mean, it was a shambolic performance. I think your commentary about passing angles was 100% true. We just let them dictate what space we were going to pass into the entire game. And none of our players were ready to counter that with any sort of off-the-ball movement or any sort of different patterning or anything like that. It was bad.
So maybe kind of talking a little bit more about like where things didn't go well. So we highlighted a little bit about the attack. I also think some of the defensive combination, and I think we probably should start with like Chilwell and just like the fitness readiness for players coming back from injury. This was not a Champions League night in Porto performance for Ben Chilwell. This was not a good night out for Ben Chilwell performance. And you saw that there was the simulation that he got booked for that was very obvious. And, that was something that VAR couldn't miss if it needed to check. And then the tussle for the second goal, which was a foul, but didn't get called back because apparently they were both going at it, whatever. And then the bigger issue, actually, I think beyond both of that, was the amount of space that he gave for Bradley. Like, Connor Bradley should not have had the night that he had. And more of that was due to where Chilwell was positionally and how he was allowing runs in behind him. And there was no like left center back cover. So like Badiashile was like not kind of they were not a good partnership together on that left-hand side of the defense to try and mitigate what Liverpool were doing with the fullbacks running down the pitch.
Yeah, I think this is critical. Like, you got to have your players ready to play. Chilwell looked off of it from minute one. The spacing between our backline and our midfield was terrible. The game plan to play 2 8s instead of playing 2 6s obviously didn't fucking work. And Chilwell and Badiashile have not played that many matches together, right? So they don't know each other inherently yet. They don't have that sort of telepathic relationship like Chilwell used to have with Rudiger, for example. And that was all on display. I mean, you would have thought that Bradley was the season fullback and that Chilwell was the person who was getting his first start. And that went for Badiashile in the second half when he was replaced. Badiashile, obviously not a left back, but got played hard. And it's an unacceptable performance across the board, but I don't think the setup necessarily helped anybody. We were so narrow. It was very obvious that we wanted to stop their midfield from advancing the ball up, McAllister and Soboslai from getting the ball in dangerous areas and taking shots, that we basically said, fuck it, have the wings, have the gaps between our one holding midfielder and a shambolic defense, and they did, and they scored 4 goals. They probably should have had more.
Well, there were so many times that you could go back and scrub this match and just like do the fast forward and pause at a random moment where the center backs are playing out and say, where is the nearest midfield player and where is the nearest attacker to that midfield player for the 1-2-3 combination? And the amount of players jamming up the lines or the passing lanes for Liverpool to prevent us from having a good way to get that ball forward, it was a logjam. It was not a convenient way for those players to kind of play out and play through. And I think that was where this goes back to, do we feel like Chelsea have improved? Do I feel like Chelsea are taking a step forward or taking a step back? This is a regression from how we played Liverpool in the first game in the season. And like, yes, some of the players were different. We had certain players available and others who aren't. But in general, this should be the expectation for a Chelsea team, that you go out at Anfield, you compete against Liverpool, you take it to them as a side. And it felt naive that with the Palmer not really being a focal forward for any type of attack, getting a little bit muted on the night, Madueke in the right-hand side being pretty absent with the way that Disasi plays from an attacking perspective, you knew things were going to try to go down the left, and Liverpool locked it up and used it to their advantage. And so in general, not a great showing for Pochettino, not a great showing for the attack, not a great showing for our defenders. And, I think we could also target in on some of the performances. I think the weird pairing of Silva as a right center back and Badiashile as a left center back, that was a very odd decision that didn't pay dividends either.
No, absolutely not. It did not. Look, Colwell obviously not in the team. The injury, knowing our luck, is going to be worse than we thought. That knee was bandaged. He's been playing out of position all year, probably extra strain on him and his body. So Badiashile, fresh back from injury, comes in, aging Thiago Silva in a high-pressure environment, and Badiashile playing right back because Gusto can't stay healthy either. So you're playing one and a half fit players, Silva and Badiashile, Silva and Disasi on the right, and then Badiashile and Chilwell, 2 players coming back from injury on the left against a rapid attack with one of the faster players in the Premier League, Darwin Nunez, kind of leading their line, making tricky runs in behind. I go back to the 3rd minute where they had their first chance. Badiashile stepped up, Silva stayed back, allowed Nunez on, and he had a clear shot on goal. And I was like, oh shit, this is going to be a long night, because if those 2 aren't on the same page against them at home, when their whole atmosphere is to crown Klopp the king on his way out, like you're in a really bad spot. Badiashile looks like a shell of himself, Dan. He looks like an absolute shell of himself. I don't know what's happened to him.
Yeah, as we know, he gave away the penalty as well, which was unfortunate too. I mean, if you're talking about ways to go from bad to worse in terms of your evening, that was probably the last thing that he wanted to be on his docket or on his resume for the night. It's just weird, right? It's weird decisions. I mean, we've seen Alfie Gilchrist in a couple of recent performances, at least look stable. Again, he's not necessarily, I would say, any more progressive in play than Disasi is. However, would there have been the option to say, like, look, let's actually have Thiago Silva and Disasi play and then put Gilchrist on the right hand side? He's fit, he's young, he's hungry. He'll do something, right? Or he'll, potentially have the opportunity to show you something, be a little bit of that energizer bunny kind of aggressive tackling that you want to see in this match. Gives you a little bit more comfort than bringing Benoit Badiashile really out of the cold into this match. It just, again, it feels like it was a lot of decisions that, we've had this conversation of players, managers, owners, sporting directors, because everybody after every match is trying to assign blame in a particular fashion. But I think this is one of the few matches where I would say the players didn't play well, but they also, it didn't feel like there was any setup for them to be successful within the way that the manager put them in place and who he selected. And like, that is not how I've always felt about every match this season. I think there have been plenty of times where we have a XG of, double what our total goals scored were, or we should have scored 2 goals and we didn't score any. And like, what, then it's like, okay, well, we did enough to actually win. So you could say that our coach and manager did good enough to put his team in a position to win. This one feels like the players didn't do enough and the manager didn't put them in a position to help them either. And that is the worst part of it to me.
Well, and I would say this too. I agree with your take on Gilchrist. There's nothing that kid has done to not deserve a shout here. I mean, sorry to everyone else. Like you have to earn to play for Chelsea. John Terry was in the stands tonight. I can't imagine what he was thinking looking at that defense as they were coming his way in the second half. You imagine? Look, I don't know if he's ever going to be a manager or not, but like, give me a fucking break. He's the best central defender in Premier League history, and he's
running down the tunnel at halftime.
Benoit, yeah, he's doing the thing he did in Munich, is putting his shirt on for I mean, it was bad, and Thiago Silva looked old today. He looked old. I love him to death. I do. He's been incredible. You could tell it's wearing on him, and I can't imagine that was easier having, not a right back next to you, and then clearly not a couple of fit players on the other side. But the flick, just body him off the ball for the first goal. Like, what are you doing? Come on, man. Like, better. Your body can't stretch that much anymore. The weird flick of the ball takes it in, and I don't know. Like, so there are a lot of people upset at everybody, but I cannot believe how inept this was. And then you think about the passing lanes, as you were saying, out of the back. I know Chelsea loves playing out of the back. I get it. We want to show that we're ball dominant. We want to show that we're skillful, that we're tactically aware, that we want to keep and retain the ball and make sure that we can progress it at our own time and pace up the pitch. Against them, there is space to play the long ball over the top against Konate and Van Dijk, who aren't exactly like error-free players, and a young right back who doesn't have that much experience, and Joe Gomez. You're telling me that we had 4 shots against that back line? That's, dude, I just get the ball long and go. Stop fucking around with it. Because all it did was just leave us in our own half, each half. We were always trying to play out. We were always trying to combination our way out. There was so much dumb running that was done there. And I've seen Newcastle play Liverpool twice this year, and they hit the ball long and ran onto it and scored a bunch. So it's like, what are we doing? Like,
don't tell me this won't work.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know. maybe I'm just rambling here. Maybe people are going to be like, well, Nick, Newcastle only had 28% possession and maybe whatever. But like, it has to be better than what we saw today.
Well, with all that said, before we get into talking about what the impact is going to be on Chelsea's form and mental fortitude as it relates to the Carabao Cup final, League Cup final, we're going to take our last break. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, Nick. So it's going to come in under a month, but Chelsea do get a chance, the privilege or dishonor of getting a chance to play Liverpool an additional time this season in the League Cup, Carabao Cup final at Wembley. Where were you before this match in terms of how did you feel about having a chance against Liverpool, and where are you now with what you think is going to transpire in the final?
I mean, how are we going to play? I mean, if we play like we did today, it'll be worse at Wembley. There's more room at Wembley for them to run. It's a bigger pitch. There's more room on the wings. I mean, that's 6-0 probably if we play like we did today at Wembley. Completely embarrassed. And like, people will say, "Oh, Nick, you're a pessimist. You are super negative." 28 shots, 13 on target, and Petrovic stood on his head. Like, you do the fucking math. I don't know. Like, I don't think that's being overly negative by saying that. If we come out and we play a tactical game plan, we know in advance that everyone is waiting for Klopp to raise a trophy to cement his place in the greats of English football. If we come out and frustrate the fuck out of him like we have many, many, many times before, and we punch back on the counter and we get Cole Palmer into dangerous areas and we get, Sterling or Nkunku on the left in dangerous areas, we get Nico Jackson shithousing a little bit. We get our midfield actually working like a coherent midfield. We get a back line that isn't going to take shit from everybody. Maybe we can take it to pens, win in pens. I don't know. But it's going to take that much to get back. And it's also like going to take any sort of fair refereeing, which we'll get to in a second. But like that's how I feel about it. You play like you did today, it will be the most lopsided defeat in Carabao Cup history. And that will spiral everybody.
I would have to check on what the most lopsided defeat is because I'm not sure what it is at this moment. And I don't know what the goal difference would be, so I'll try to come up with that as we chat through a few more of these things. But we have 4 matches to play between now and the League Cup final. Wolves at home this weekend, Villa with the midweek FA Cup replay at Villa Park, Palace away, and City away. Not a great run. So in terms of building some comfort, building a feeling, a good vibe back, maybe you get the results you want against Villa, Wolves, and Palace, but City is going to be a real tough draw. That's another team that is just tailor-made to destroy anybody in the Premier League. I think there's a couple positives. Nico Jackson with Senegal going out early, he will be back. He almost would have been back for this match potentially to come off the bench. Some people may or may not be excited about that, but when he's your top scorer in the Premier League this season, you should want him back, regardless of how you feel about his performance in certain games. And Nkunku hopefully is fully fit at that time, so maybe you get an opportunity to start Jackson, Nkunku, and Palmer in your attack, and that feels way better than continuing to play Cole Palmer as a central forward or false nine or as a part of a amorphous blob. And you didn't reinforce at all in the transfer market this January. So pluses and minuses. I think things that could make you feel better about it depending upon how those results go. But I think it's going to be looming in the mind of the players, looming in the mind of the manager that you got waxed recently, and this team knows exactly how to go at you and to go beat you. And so I hope there's review starting tomorrow on this is what we need to do to beat Liverpool in the cup final. Because regardless of position, that would guarantee you at least some European football next season. And I know the Conference League is not where we want to be playing as Chelsea, but it is European football next season, and I'm grasping at straws for any type of positives here at this moment, and that would be the one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of just kind of blah about it. I don't. Wolves beat our ass on Christmas Eve. We'll see if we play any different or better against them at home. I have very, very little hope for the FA Cup replay right now. Even though Villa just got thumped by Newcastle, I just don't think we're going to go there and win. Personally, that's me, but someone else might think we will. Palace are incredibly beatable. In fact, if you don't beat them, and if Eze and
Elise.
Right winger's name is Elise are injured, then that gives you the best possible chance to get that. And City away is going to be a terrible, terrible, terrible experience for everybody. So that may be the warm up to a terrible, terrible cup final if you play the way that you did today. So I don't know. They've surprised me both negatively and positively this year. You know, I was super surprised that we played City so close in September, October. I was thrilled that we went out and took it to Arsenal in the first match at home. I thought that we played that game really well, except for a couple of dumb errors. And then I was super surprised today that we came out absolutely aimlessly. So maybe this team goes on a 4-match winning streak and we win the cup final. It feels like the opposite direction right now.
Well, if it's win-loss, 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 you just have to have it happen on the right day for the alternating things to happen. One thing we might not be able to count on in the cup final, like we weren't able to count on in this match.
I love might not be able to count. I love the phrasing. Yeah, just perhaps. I don't, you know.
We may not be able to count on the video-assisted refereeing system to correctly adjudicate potential penalty-related situations in what felt like pretty comfortably non-offensive decisions from officials that did not go Chelsea's way, whether that was the disallowing of the goal with the foul in the build-up, which we have been the beneficiary of the receiving end for having our goals taken away for things that happened like 2 years before in a match, in a final. Like, we've seen that happen. We have also seen, I think some things in this match that were just really bizarre in terms of the overall officiating. But I think people will point to the Conor Gallagher decision not given very early in the match, which, you know what? Two things can be true at the same time. The video assistant referee and the officiating in the game can be miserable and could have a major impact on how your team plays, but you also could be playing terribly on the day and only registering 4 total shots. Both things were true today. Like, you should be mad at VAR, but you also should be mad at the way Chelsea played.
Yeah, the maximum that we could have gotten if every call went our way was a 3-3 draw. Like, let's be really clear about that. The maximum that we could have gotten is a 3-3 draw, right? The Gallagher pen is a penalty every fucking day of the week, twice on Sunday. It's a pen. The Nkunku pen is actually worse. He goes to the back of him in the penalty area with the ball at his feet. It's a penalty every day of the week. Not only were both not really reviewed at all, but they were dismissed out of hand by the referee on the field at the time. Whereas Jota's penalty, which is a stamp on the foot, sure, let's call it a penalty. Why the fuck not? That it's the same level of contact for all 3 penalties, and only 1 was called and 2 weren't. What are we fucking doing here? And the reviews were so nonchalant. The commentary was so fucking nonchalant. Only after they saw the replay, after it was already, the Gallagher penalty I'm going back to, after it was already said no pen, Graham Lasso and Drury on the American broadcast were like, ooh, upon review, that looks pretty bad. No fucking shit, guys. No fucking shit. But way to be nonchalant about it in the moment. Well done. And then, Dan, I think the most egregious one of the night is Liverpool's second goal. Chilwell gets absolutely taken out. Now, did he have a good game? Absolutely not. Both things could be true per your earlier comments. How's he supposed to defend the ball when he gets rugby tackled earlier in the possession?
It's very interesting that Liverpool, with the updates to their stadium, are running concurrent events overlapping, where they have a football match happening while there's also a WWE match in the center of the pitch. Very impressive that they're able to run two concurrent events in the same sporting stadium at the same time. Very interesting future for them. The excuse in the commentary, which was relayed as they were listening to the officials talk about it, was that they couldn't basically distinguish between who was the aggressor. And that feels a little odd when there's an arm pushing one player down to the ground and the other doesn't have, like, has no feet or hand touching touching the surface. It's just a bizarre definition of, like, I don't know. It's like when a teacher is trying to figure out, like, well, who started it, and it's just a very lazy, like, give them both attention. That was kind of what happened, and there was no desire to, like, go one click deeper and be like, actually, it seems like this person really initiated it, or this person really had the advantage and did something so disruptive. Again, I don't know if he gets back there in time. I don't know if he closes it out. I don't know if it doesn't still become a goal. But the point of the matter is the law of the game is set up to try to prevent things from going awry and not being adjudicated appropriately, and it was completely missed in all scenarios.
Well, and here's what I hate is, you go back and look at the stats. They got 15 fouls to our 16 or whatever, but a lot of those were cheap fouls late in the game once the game was already decided. That's when our idiot referee, whose name I don't even care to mention on here, decided that he was going to start giving fouls to make it even. It was, yeah. If you're any other fan of any other team and your team has to go play at Anfield the rest of the season, put this out on Twitter earlier today. Expect at the very best to get no calls your way, and at the very worst to have every call go against you. That is what you are facing. You have to play your best game times 2 to get the, like, median result there. Are they good? Sure. Do they get a shit ton of help? Oh, yeah. Because, I mean, you think about the flow of the game. This is what you can't account for, Dan. Chelsea go up 1-0 in the first 10 minutes. You don't know what happens after that. You don't know what happens if they're given the other penalty and Kunku gets his goal and it's 3-2, game on. You don't know what happens. But they made damn sure that we never found out.
Yeah, the biggest cover up in English Premier League football / soccer. Why Liverpool continues getting away with all of this. Deep investigation there. Would love to see further details on it, but that is never going to see the light of day, particularly during the Klopp farewell tour that he is getting at the moment. No day in the match, but we are going to dive into what some of the other results were. Some that actually broke our way, some that didn't. Some that we were enjoying the day prior, but can't enjoy really as much anymore. Arsenal could have lost to Forest if Forest did not do Forest things and give the game away 2-1. Fulham and Everton 0-0. Luton beating Brighton 4-0. That was the result we were all laughing with on the day prior. Crystal Palace beating Sheffield United 3-2. Newcastle beating Villa 3-1. Man City beating Burnley 3-1. Tottenham coming back to beat Brentford, unfortunately, 3-2. And then us getting smacked 4-1. West Ham and Bournemouth and Wolves versus United still left to play. And with the table, Nick, that leaves Liverpool atop, though City have a game in hand. It's 51-46. Arsenal on 46 points as well, but behind on goal difference. You have Tottenham at 43 points, along with Aston Villa. Again, a goal difference separation there. And then West Ham, Newcastle, Brighton, Man United round up the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 spots. Because 10 is Chelsea. Back where we belong, right in the middle. Stuck in the middle with you.
Yeah, embarrassing. I mean, 31 points. It's just like, I don't know, man. 31 points is bad at this point of the year. We've had a multitude of chances this year. to climb that spot to get. We would have ended today in 7th if we would have won this game, and I think goal differential wise we're +1. We'd at least be one spot up on United, who are -5, and we'd be tied with Brighton on goal diff. So yeah, it's bad. We should have ended today in a different spot, and now we have to go fight and claw and see if we can eventually catch West Ham in 6th on 35 points.
We are not making it easy for ourselves. 16 matches remain in the Premier League this season with 3 points available in each. That's 48 total points remaining. Chelsea unlikely to get all of those. So again, every match where you drop a little, your chances and opportunity to climb back up get harder and harder, particularly when those above you find a way or a will to win on the day and on the night. So yeah, not a great moment for Chelsea. I think there's a lot of conversations that likely are going to have, start to happen between the players and the manager, the sporting directors and the manager, the owners and the sporting directors. But there's a lot of problems to solve with not an easy solution. And I think that's where some of the major frustration is going to be, Nick, because we're going to look at how do you try to get this Chelsea side firing again for the next match this weekend and then also through the remainder of the season. And it doesn't feel like there's a lot of easy decisions to make to have that happen.
Welcome back, Nico Jackson. Well, at least we have a striker again.
Straight into the fire this weekend, because that's right, Chelsea are back. It is the match against Wolves this weekend, so we will be back on Monday with another episode there. But we also have match preview happening before that as well. Sam and I will be talking about that Wolves match, some of the changes that we should expect from them versus the match this past December. And then we'll also do a little bit of a more detailed announcement conversation. Again, we teased that earlier, but we'll have some wonderful things to share with you that are not about Chelsea playing on the pitch, but about the podcast that we were happy to share. So, look, not a great moment, not a great result, but come hell or high water, Chelsea do find a way to do pretty chaotic and magical things. So hopefully they lean more into the chaos and trophy type of mentality for the remainder of the season and get this one done. But that's going to do it for this episode, friends. So until next time, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high.